Boros recently won a trophy featuring cards from the new set, but what makes this deck so exciting? Well, historically the core of this deck has been its cheap flyers, like Core Skyfisher and Glinthawk. These winged warriors pair well with the value cards like Experimental Synthesizer and Ichor Wellspring to outvalue your opponents. But with the introduction of Pyrexia All Will Be One, Boros Aggro now has a new weapon in its arsenal, the Barber Batterfist. This equipment creates a 2/2 token when it enters the battlefield, and when paired with the aforementioned cards, it can be returned to hand to put another token into play. Of course, the rest of the deck is your standard Boros Aggro fare. Cheap spells like Monastery Swiftpear to start adding pressure from turn 1, reliable removals like Lightning Bolt, and artifact lands that go along with the rest of the cards like Galvanic Blast, Makeshift Munitions, and Kuldota Revert. But what sets this deck apart is Rally the Peasants. This card can steal games in the blink of an eye. The question remains, is this enough to beat the top decks? Let's find out. Game number 1 is going to be against Dimir Terror, but since my opponent started with a Delver of Secrets, I had my doubts at the beginning. We get to see the new equipment in action at the very beginning of the video, and as you can see, without investment, it has the same power as a flipped Delver. I bait the counter by playing the Glinthawk first and not revealing I had a mountain, and they counter it, allowing me to kill their creature and stop their pressure for now. That didn't last long though, as they play a Tolarian Terror, and all I can do for now is develop my board. They proceed to play an Angler and attack, and since I draw a Swiftpear, I cast it and start playing spell to make it bigger so I can attack their board. They block the Swiftpear, and I cast Rally to finish the Angler. They attack and tap out, and this was my chance to take over the game with a bit of help from the top decking gods. For game number 2, I brought in the Pyroblast, and that should be good enough. I thought I could keep this hand since I had a Synthesizer, but it was too greedy, and they cast a Terror that received lifelink. Pretty much unbeatable, and now we move to game number 3. This is a decent hand, and I will play a land and pass a turn. My plan is to play the equipment with counter backup, so I will just play the tap land, and as I thought, they had a counter, so with a bit of help of Pyroblast, I could resolve my spell. They killed the token, but took a big hit on their life points. They follow up with the Terror, and now it's my turn to try and rebuild. I will put as much pressure as possible by casting my flyers and tokens, and since they like to tap out, I saw a chance to put them into a 1-turn clock by sending 2 blasts to their face, and they can see it from there. Match number 2 will be against Dimir Poison, and we keep a decent hand, but it's slow. We found a Synthesizer, and we were lucky enough to top deck a land to pass the turn. With the artifact in play, we can start developing our board by playing 2 Glinthawks and the spell revealed from the Synthesizer trigger. The opponent played the land and passed the turn, and we cast our non-creature spells to make our Swift Spear bigger. I attack, and they got rid of the token and the red creature during my turn. They pass again, and now we lost one of the Glinthawks. Still, we can reveal quickly. They kept playing removal spells, but we could bounce our equipment and replay it to get another creature in play. Since we already have value pieces in play, we need to keep adding more threats to the board, and since they are tap out, a Galvanic Blast will put them into a clock. They play a couple of spells, and before I could attack, the opponent conceded. Since I never learned, I kept an awkward hand for game 2, relying on having 2 Synthesizers. They deal with the Swiftpear, play a land, and pass the turn, so I proceeded to cast my Synthesizer, and the spell it revealed not to lose any value. They tap it once more, and with this I can play my Kuldota Rebirth and add 3 goblins to the field while being able to play a land. With 2 counters in hand, I wanted to resolve my munitions to make their removal less effective, and I managed to protect it while also denying a second spell. They got rid of the goblins, but with a Synthesizer and a Skyfisher and a Glinthawk in hand, I can rebuild my board in no time, given the absurd amount of value that the Synthesizer. The last match is against Mono Faeries. As you may have noticed, all starting hands from this deck are slow, but with 8 solid removal spells, you can buy some time while you find your value pieces. While I wouldn't say I like this style of play, with this deck, you must play in the best case scenario most of the time. For example, if there's the possibility to top deck a land with Synthesizer and a second spell out of it, you must pursue that, as it was what exactly happened. They resolve a ninja, and again I will opt for the option to deal more damage to them while keeping the board small by removing the only potential blocker. As you see, they are forced to stay back and eventually decided it is enough. In game number 2, I went down to 6 cards with a Soul in hand. Monastery Swiftbeard is an insane magic card, and its presence added a lot of pressure to my opponent since turn 1. They resolve a ninja, but a Glinthawk should be enough to block it. For now, I will keep bracing them, and since I found removal, killing their Faeries seemed okay to me. They got rid of my Swiftbeard with a card I've never seen before. Anyways, since I traded for that ninja, rebuilding my board is critical, and munitions is going to be huge against them, so I need to look for ways to make it survive. I will attack and try to bait a counter to ensure my munitions see play. Things went as planned, and we can start clearing the board while dealing with some incidental damage. I kept pushing damage, and even though they tried to remove one of my creatures, munitions made sure none of the removal spells were efficient, and upon realizing that, they conceded.
Now, if you're new to Pauper and want to test other cool decks, click into that playlist. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.